It's not politically correct. It's totally incorrect. You're listening to the Totally Incorrect Podcast with David Holliday.
Make America Great Again. Make America Great Again. We've all seen that slogan in the Donald Trump campaign. We've seen it on the little red caps, the IQ reducers as I call them, that a lot of his supporters wear. But what does that phrase, Make America Great Again, actually mean? Does it mean anything? To me, it suggests that there was a time when America was in fact great, but it's not great at the moment. But if we could make some changes, we could perhaps go back to that time of greatness, which seems to be what a lot of people are looking to do. So when could that possibly be? And interestingly, if you look at events in American history, 401 years ago, and I'm recording this in 2020, so 401 years ago, the first ship carrying African slaves landed in the colonies, I believe in Virginia. And slavery became an important part of growing the colonies and then later the country. Would that be a good time to go back to when America was great? I don't really think so. At the time, not only was African slavery being introduced, but the Native American population was being removed off of the land, being killed, set up as slaves themselves. Doesn't sound to me like a very good time. So fast forward a little bit to the Declaration of Independence, when the United States became its own country. Was that a great time? Well, I think one thing to note is that the majority of the people that signed the Declaration of Independence were in fact slaveholders. And I'm planning on doing another video on that very topic in the not too distant future. So the country was basically set up by slaveholders. And for those early years of the new country, through the War of Independence against Great Britain, and then as it became established after that, African slavery became a very large part of building up the success and the infrastructure and the wealth of the country. Is that a time we'd want to go back to? I'd say no, unless you've got some real problems. By the time of the Civil War, African slavery was huge, and despite the attempts of people in the southern states to deny that slavery was the reason for the Civil War, of course it was. At the time, in some states, the state of Virginia, for example, African slaves made up 40% of the population, nearly 40% of the total population. Some of the other slave states not too far behind that. Is that the time you want to go back to? Man, if you do, you've got some real problems, and I can't help you. I can't help you with that. But as it turned out, good prevailed, and the Union won the Civil War. During the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln actually wrote his famous proclamation freeing the slaves. Interestingly, he only freed the slaves in the states that were held by the Confederacy, not in the northern states that still had slaves. Obviously, his intention wasn't to be a nice guy and be humane and free these people from their slavery. It was more to disrupt the Confederacy and damage their ability to wage war on the Union. But maybe not for the best intentions, but it was the right thing to do. And some 2.5 years after his proclamation, slavery ended everywhere, when in Texas they finally found Lincoln's email in the spam folder that mentioned that the slaves were supposed to be free. Long time after Lincoln was dead, to be honest. So one would think that no one would want to go back to the Civil War era unless you happen to be one of these military reenactors and you really love that period. But otherwise, it was not a time that you want to have anything to do with. Reconstruction after the Civil War was a great opportunity to rebuild the country, make it fair, give the same rights as all the other citizens to the newly freed slaves? Did that happen? Did it? Hell. Reconstruction was a nightmare for a lot of the freed slaves, probably not much better than slavery had been. A lot of segregation was put in place, a lot of laws were put in place to ensure segregation between the races. So unless you're a total racist, no one in their right mind would want to go back to the Reconstruction era. Things didn't get much better as we got it forward in time to the 20th century. In the 1920s, the Jim Crow laws were really discriminatory against black people and other people of color. I don't think anyone would want to go back to that time either. Again, unless you think the world is only for whites. So as the Jim Crow era came to an end, forced to a very large extent by the big civil rights movement, which was hard work, things gradually got better for the people of color and the black community. But discrimination, worse housing, worse education, worse healthcare, worse just about everything continues to this day. So when exactly would we go back to when America was really great? I honestly don't know. So I look at it a different way. Maybe instead of saying, "Make America great again," because in all of the eras of American history, it was only ever great for parts of the population. Would it not be better to say, "Make America great," and make America great for everyone, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of their ethnic background, and give everyone an opportunity for good education, for good housing, for proper health care? The United States can certainly afford to do that. Easily actually. It just needs the political will and maybe a change of heart in some areas. So that's my thought. You can't make America great again because the greatness is potentially still to come. Some of the things I see from Donald Trump and his followers make me wonder whether that's really going to happen, but I'm an optimist and I personally will do everything I can to move good ideas along and make America great. Thanks for watching. If you see this on social media, let me know in the comments what you think. Am I a raving nutcase or am I talking very sensible? I think I'm talking very sensible, but I'm biased. Take care, everyone.